You join me inside the cabin of the 2020 Volvo S60, and this particular model is the T8 plug-in hybrid, and that's interesting because it gets pretty good fuel economy at 31 combined and an all-electric driving range of 21 miles, and it also makes 400 horsepower. But we'll get to that later. Let's talk about the design first. So the S60 was kind of the last holdout of Volvo's old design language, which struggled a bit. So they finally got through all the other models and they got to the S60, and they've given it a new platform and new engines and a whole new design. And I'll break up my thoughts on how it looks two parts. First part is relative. So the old S60, it could not hold a candle to BMW's 3 Series, Mercedes-Benz C-Class, Audi's A4, heck, even Infiniti's Q50 after its update was giving this one a run for its money. Visually, I actually liked how the S60 drove. I didn't have any problems with it. Now, objectively, let's look at the other vehicles that we have in this compact luxury sedan segment. I think this is among the best looking of them, really, if not the best looking. I would actually say, I'm thinking through this as I'm talking to you, it is the best looking compact premium sedan. So let's break down those good looks. Up front, we've got Volvo's classic hexagonal, rectangular. I'm not good with geometry. I didn't do well. I'm a writer, so, you know. Anyway, it's got the Thor's hammer headlights that now extend in towards the grille. They look fantastic, especially in a rearview mirror. Then you flow out to the side. This one has 19-inch wheels. You can choose 18 inches, 19 inches, 20 inches, your choice. I don't think it dramatically impacts the silhouette of this car, which is gorgeous. I love the flow. I feel like it looks larger than it is, and the profile is just doing it for me. The long hood and then the squat rear end. Speaking of the rear end, that one has a little ducktailing to the trunk lid, and then the dual chrome-tipped exhaust ports down below, and Volvo's cool LED taillights that they borrowed from the S90, and I think look even better on the S60. So that's the exterior stuff. What about the cabin? This is a mixed bag for me. I think it's good, but this particular vehicle I'm driving is $61,000. You expect a certain level of splendor for $61,000, and I get about 7/10 of the way there. So the material quality is good. The leather is soft, feels good in the hand. There's contrast stitching here on the center stack, and these seats, this is an R design trim, so it's got some unique mix of fabric and leather with some white piping and more contrast stitching. They hold you in place very well. They're not the most soft and cushy things on the planet, so you don't kind of like sink and squish into them. They hold you firmly. The steering wheel leather, just like the rest of the cabin, is very soft, good feeling. I really do like this mesh trim down on the dashboard here. It's got some texture to it. This one also has the upgraded Bowers & Wilkins sound system. That's a $3,200 option, and it's a very good sound system, but I'm not an audiophile, so I can't justify an extra $3,000 on top of the vehicle's price tag. Pardon me. But yeah, so it looks cool. But the rest of the trim materials are a little cheap. And then this center console thing here, it's so much piano black, which is just like half effort to me. Piano black is just I can't think of something to throw in there, just throw in piano black. I do like that it has an auto hold button, so you can take your foot off the brake when you're at a stoplight and the car won't roll forward. I like that there is a volume knob. It's big and you can easily grab it. The infotainment above that is better for the S60. I've liked Volvo's infotainment. I like its layout, but it was always pretty slow. Now it's faster for this model, and the layout is still very user-friendly. They've got all of your adaptive safety functions that you can turn on and off here. This one has adaptive cruise control. It's got lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, automated emergency braking. I'm really having trouble speaking today. And this one has a head-up display. There you go. So you can turn on and off those right here in the infotainment. You can fold the rear headrest, which I'm going to do and see if this thing picks up on it. Yeah. So you can fold those with the press of a button, which is always fun. and also it gives you better visibility, which is important. The camera button is buried in the infotainment. I wish that was a physical button, but once you're in the camera menu, it's pretty good. You've got 360 surround view and then a front and rear angle, and you can dial in on specific cameras. You've got one in each mirror, so you can look at how close am I to that curb. Oh shoot, I hit it. Darn. That's not me. Apple Carplay and Android Auto are standard in this. Good. Every vehicle should have that these days. The driver display, fully digital. Bonus points for that. You can change the surrounds for the speedo and tachometer here in the infotainment. You go into settings, display themes, and then you can pick whether you want it to have a glass background, a minimalist background, performance background, which means red, and then chrome rings. You can change out the information shown in the center of the screen. So you can either have a map, which I would recommend. You can show your current media, or you can show nothing. I don't know, why would you choose that? Show something, have information. The sunroof, standard panoramic sunroof. Panoramic sunroof. I put that in quotes because it's sort of like somewhere between a standard sunroof, which would stop here, and a pano sunroof, which would stop way back here towards the rear passengers. This one is like 1.5. That is my thought on the cabin. The rear passenger space is excellent. I sat behind my own driving position, didn't have any trouble whatsoever. I'm 6 feet tall for reference, and I had like 2 inches of knee room, plenty of headroom, and I do have a longer torso. The seats are 60/40 split folding. The trunk isn't massive. You've got about 12 cubic feet of space, but if you fold down the seats, you've got a lot more space. I almost forgot this, and I think I'm gonna make it a standardized test for all the vehicles I review. Large water bottle accommodation space. Typically, I find it rather difficult to fit a Nalgene size or similar generic large water bottle into a cup holder. The cup holders up here in the Volvo, no. The door cutout. Well, it kind of sits there, but the moment you take a turn, it's hitting your leg and then rolling towards the pedals, which is dangerous. I do not recommend that. I was able to squeeze it behind the netting, I'm losing my voice, behind the netting in the front 2 seats, but that's not easy access. And don't expect anything for this center console because it's pretty shallow. There's not any real space in there for anything except for a smartphone. So, fail. All right, back to that part about 400 horsepower. Whee. Okay, so I should preface this by saying this isn't your sports car standard 400 horsepower. It is a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that's turbocharged and supercharged, and then complemented by an electric motor that's rear mounted with a 10.4 kilowatt per hour battery pack. That's how you get your 400 horsepower. So it's a bit of a different power delivery experience than you might expect. The power, be it because of transmission tuning or the fact that it's turbocharged and it takes a second for the boost to build, isn't absolutely immediate. You wait a second and then it gets moving. It genuinely gets moving. But you gotta be patient for that blip of a second there. And that is not what you're going to encounter in something like a BMW M340i or Mercedes-AMG C43, both kind of sort of rivals to this, certainly similar price points. And if you're also going to look at the BMW 330ei performance, when that finally comes to dealerships and when we finally get the figures on it, this should do fairly well against that. But if you're looking standard sports sedan, it's a different experience. So much understeer. Oh, so much understeer. If you take your head out of that space, if you're not looking at it like a sports sedan, it's really such a well put together product. The driving experience is serene, it's quiet in here, very comfortable. I would love to commute in this. I do believe that the $55,000 price point and its strange combination of efficiency and performance is it's going to refine the buyer pool a fair amount. So you really have to want this kind of a vehicle, this kind of driving experience. If you don't, if you want more of a sports car, then you will be looking at that M Sport or that AMG model. Even the Audi S4 is another good one. But if you want a super efficient vehicle, there's a whole other set of things that do a better job, give you more all-electric range. Is the S60 T8 worth the money? Is it worth $55,000 to start, as this one is equipped 61 grand? Not really. I would argue that Volvo has a few things to learn in terms of really poshing up the cabin. The styling, I have no complaints there. I think it looks like a $60,000 vehicle. The interior needs a little work. The driving experience, again, is just fine for that price point. But you don't do just fine when you're spending that kind of money. So I think already with the market saturation that BMW and Mercedes has, Volvo is not going to be the first thing people think of. So they need to go a little further with this vehicle. I imagine the base T5 of the S60 is a really good value proposition, and that would be the one I would go with. I wouldn't necessarily get this T8. Not for this money. This is one of those things that isn't talked about as much as I would like in reviews, so I'm going to talk about it. Turning radius. The S60 has a great one. It makes tight turns look easy.